What is going on, Guardians? Ember here with another one for you. Today, we're going to be diving into 3 top-tier hunter builds for the new Onslaught game mode coming out next week in Destiny 2. Some of these builds are unique, some of them are straightforward, but they all have one thing in common. They're going to go so hard in this new horde mode that we have coming to us here. So let's get these builds ready for next week and get after some of that sweet, sweet loot. Last week we did Warlocks, which I'll go ahead and I will link that video up above right now. This week we're doing Hunter builds, and next week we'll be finishing off with Titans, so go ahead and keep your eye out for that one as well. As I have been doing with the previous videos here, and I'll be carrying through with the next couple, we're not actually going to be going over every single thing in these builds like I usually do for my individual build videos. We're just going to be talking about why these builds are strong. I will also, right at the start of the builds, be putting up all the information about them, the artifact perks, the general stat distributions you're looking for, the subclass aspects and fragments, and things like that. So keep your eye out for that if you're interested in any of these builds. But otherwise, we're just going to be talking about what makes them so strong and just some general tips while using them. And now that we've gotten all that out of the way, let's get into it. Don't forget to like and sub. Thanks! First up, I have a Void Hunter build using Gerfalcons, a fantastic exotic chess piece, and I've built into this so that we're doing something pretty special. Let's get into it. So Gerfalcons is a fantastic exotic for 2 reasons in particular. Number 1, while you're invisible and you perform a finisher, you're going to give your allies around you a 500% boost to their ability regen for their class ability specifically, and that's super strong because you're also giving them an overshield in reserve. So anytime they use that, if you have a hunter, anytime they dodge, if you've given them that reserve overshield, they're going to actually get that right on demand whenever they need it. So when they're in trouble, they can use it to get out of a sticky situation. The next and probably more important part of the Gerfalcons chess piece here is when you come out of being invisible, you're going to get a 35% damage increase for all of your weapons. Not just weapons that are for Void like some other kinds of exotics do, like for the Titan Doomfang Pauldrons, those give you a Void boost. It actually is going to give you essentially 4 surge mods for every type of element, whether it's kinetic, solar, stasis, any of that stuff is going to give you 35% more damage, and that is crazy strong as well. I have 2 things in particular on this build that are working together for some really crazy powerful synergies. Number 1, whenever we activate our quick fall dive to the ground, it's going to obviously make us invisible, weaken the targets around us, which is going to set us up so that we can get a finisher off and get that overshield in our back pocket for all of our allies. And after that, we're using the fragment that is going to make us invisible after performing a finisher. So that's right, we're actually going to be invisible pretty much all the time. You have almost an infinite loop. I'm also using the Gambler's Dodge so that you can get your melee charge back whenever you need to. So you'll never actually have to be visible to any enemies that are around you. Not only that, you're going to be applying the weaken debuff to all of them. You're going to be making them volatile with your finishers, and that is just going to make chewing through these enemy waves super easy when we get into this horde mode in Onslaught. We're also going to be pairing the Monte Carlo with this build because it gives you a chance at getting your entire melee ability back pretty much instantaneously, which is perfect for a build like this because if you ever run out of it, you want a way to get it back super quickly. It's also just all around a fantastic exotic weapon since you're going to be able to also get that massive knife attack from the bayonet on this weapon, which is just a lot of fun and super entertaining. I'm really glad that Bungie added that in as the catalyst. It's been a lot of fun to use. And since we're going to be spreading around so much volatile, I've been using something like Null Composure. I'm actually using the Iron Banner sword that has chain reaction on it as well, just so we can clear out huge groups of enemies after we make them volatile. This has to be one of the most unique builds I've ever made, and I truly have had so much fun using it. It's just so unique. if you go ahead and pick up this build, let me know in the comment section down below how you enjoyed it. I've been having a blast, and it really is something special and unique. Next up, we're going to be using the Verglass Curve with the Mask of Bakris for a crazy Stasis Hunter build. This is actually super fun. It's one of the more simple builds that I've ever used. It's super easy to just pick up and go and make it work in some really fun and interesting ways. And so we're going to be pairing this with the Mask of Bakris because you're going to actually be getting a pretty massive buff to your damage with this bow when you dodge, and that's going to really help you when it comes to dealing with some of those orange bar enemies that pop up all over the place, and I'm sure there's going to be a ton of them in the Onslaught mode. Not only does Mask of Bakris work with stasis weapons, it also works with arc weapons. So having something like my Forbearance here with chain reaction is going to help clear a whole bunch of ads whenever you need that, but I barely actually pulled it out because you're going to be dealing so much AoE damage with the shatter dives from this bow and glacier grenade. You're basically going to be having a mini nuke in your pocket any time that you want. It's so much fun to just slam right on top of any group of enemy that just spawn and take them out so insanely quickly. My favorite thing about this build is the Verglass Curve exotic bow because you can store up those hail barrage bolts for whenever you need them. It's not like it actually runs out on a timer or anything like that. Just shattering any crystals or getting kills are going to store up these bolts on your hip, and you can shoot them whenever you need them. If you don't need them, you don't have to. You can just leave them right there. But when you run into a massive group of enemies, there's nothing stopping you from unleashing a hail of stasis crystals and immediately deleting the entire lot. We're going to be using some aspects and fragments that let us get our grenades back quicker, that let us take less damage when we're near stasis crystals or frozen targets, and that's going to help us with our survivability and our ability to just rain havoc down on the battlefield. And the artifact this season is perfect for a build like this right now because it's got a whole bunch of stasis synergies like shattering stasis crystals or killing frozen combatants, spawning extra crystals around you, and that really helped me because I was shattering kind of all of my crystals right away, obviously, because we're doing the shatter dive animation, but after that it spawns 2, 3, sometimes 4 crystals depending on how many enemies you're actually killing, and that is proccing the fragment that we have, giving us some damage resistance. So we don't have to necessarily try and plan around keeping some of our crystals near us when we're trying to not take so much damage. You'll definitely want to pair this with some kind of stasis heavy weapon. Now, there are all kinds of stasis rocket launchers, and I know there's the linear fusion rifle, Reeve's Regret from Trials of Osiris if you feel like focusing one of those. But really, anytime you can pair something stasis or arc with this, you're going to be dealing a huge amount of extra damage, and it's very much worth it. And I mean, it is a 25% damage bonus. It's definitely nothing to blink at. And when you are dealing with like rocket launcher or something like that, if you have maybe clown cartridge or something to extend your ability to get a whole bunch of ammo just kind of lined up, you're going to be dealing some pretty huge DPS. But really, give it a try. Let me know how you enjoy it. It's just so much fun to get into those little grooves. You just feel kind of mesmerized by all the shattering going around you. Next up, we're going to be pairing Sturgarachne's Facade with the Whirling Maelstrom aspect for Strand Hunter, and this actually is super fun to use, incredibly unique, and pairing it with the Quicksilver Storm auto rifle is a match made in heaven. For this build to work, we need to make as many tangles as possible, and that's why pairing it with Quicksilver Storm is perfect. Since you're going to be able to load those grenades into the grenade launcher mode, anytime you get a kill with one of those, it's going to produce a tangle. And then you shoot that tangle, let it rip! And it creates a little Beyblade that goes around and just destroys everything in its wake. It does some pretty huge damage to single targets as well, so if you're using it for ad clear or for a little extra damage on a boss, if you happen to have a tangle next to them, you really can't go wrong using it. And Arachne's Facade are fantastic, so you can keep your survivability up. We're going to be getting tons and tons of woven mail so that we can stay in the fight for longer. It's a great all-around build, and it's fantastic for using in a team setting as well. And we definitely want to be spamming our grenade as much as possible with this build, because while we have woven mail, we'll be making tangles, so it's even more tangles. We're stacking so many tangle sources, it's crazy. And once you do get one of those whirling maelstroms going, you can kind of just forget about the enemies in that area because it's going to take care of them all. This build just does a little bit of everything, and it does it so well. We're going to be able to reload our weapons pretty much instantaneously with a grapple point as well, and since we have 2 grenade charges, we're really going to be able to kind of just camp it out, sit back. I'm sure you've seen the clips on Twitter of just auto-loading a rocket launcher over and over and over again, going through all of your ammo super quickly. And Guardians, in the spirit of keeping these fairly short, we're going to go ahead and end it there. Let me know in the comments section down below which of these builds you are most excited to use in the new Onslaught game mode. If you did enjoy this video, don't forget to head down below this video and absolutely obliterate that like and subscribe button. Thank you again, Guardians, and until next time, be without form, swift as lightning.